Assassins on the Run. Written by HappyClassGreat T. After assassinating the prince, the assassins sought to escape the city. The commander-general, along with other soldiers, rode on horseback towards the north gate leading out of the kingdom. Along the road, they encountered some soldiers. "Is everyone here?" the general said. "Yes, General." "Let's go." "Yes, General." With stoic faces, they made their way to the gate. In the forest near the kingdom border, the assassins, about 20 in number, had changed into ordinary clothing, disguising themselves as common folk. They ran along a lake, carefully crossing the rocks strewn across it, brandishing their swords. Upon reaching a large tree, they hid beneath its branches, patiently waiting. The assassin's leader whistled, and suddenly, another man whistled back. The man got out from the bushes accompanied by some soldiers. "Shadowblade," said the man to the assassin leader. "I'm Cavium Blackthorn." "I'm glad you came," replied Shadowblade. Your Blackthorn recognized a man he had a grudge against among the assassins. The man stepped forward and grabbed Blackthorn's collar. "Am I glad to see you?" the man sneered. "I could never forget your face." Without much thought, Blackthorn pushed the man away, almost causing him to fall. "Stop it!" Blackthorn exclaimed. "We are here to save you by the Veridonia Emperor's order." "What?" said the man. "That's right," Shadowblade said. "They came to help us escape from Terravale." "I have a debt to repay him," said the man facing Shadowblade. Turning to Blackthorn, "when I think about what you did to me," he raised his sword to strike him. "Stop it," Shadowblade quickly intervened. "Just stop it," he said. The man was breathing heavily. "You can get your revenge after we get out of here." Blackthorn then spoke, gaining some confidence. "You won't have a way out of here if you kill me." He pointed at him. "Is that what you want?" The man slowly lowered his sword. "Follow me," he said to the assassins. "Let's go," Shadowblade said. At the Terravale border checkpoint, soldiers were already present, holding posters of the assassins and inspecting closely the faces of those attempting to leave, striving to apprehend the criminals. Suddenly, a group of people, led by Blackthorn, approached the checkpoint. Some were soldiers covering their faces, while others seemed like slaves with their faces bandaged. "Hello," Blackthorn greeted the inspector in charge with a big smile. But the inspector remained wary, so he said, "The soldiers will step forward." They then removed the soldier's nose mask, comparing the faces on the poster with those of the soldiers, one by one. However, none of the soldiers resembled the assassins they were searching for. "They are not here," one of the guards at the checkpoint reported to the inspector. Looking at the slaves, the inspector pointed to them and asked, "Who are they?" Blackthorn replied warmly, "They are traitors who escaped to Terravale." Suddenly, one of the slaves bent down and started vomiting. "What's the problem?" asked the inspector. Blackthorn said with a concerned face, "I'm sorry, but they're all sick with a plague." "What? You are transporting people with a plague?" The inspector interrupted, pointing at Blackthorn. "Do you want to die?" "That's not it." He jokingly held the inspector's hand, and they walked a few paces away. "The reward is 5 silver coins for each one." All of a sudden, the slaves started running away. "Get them," said the man staying with Blackthorn. "Oh, my money! Get them!" Blackthorn waved, signaling them to come. "Stop!" He rushed over as if he would capture all the slaves with one hand. "Go get them," said the inspector. Then Commander Thalarian, the commander-general, along with his soldiers, arrived at the border checkpoint. "Have you seen any suspicious people?" he asked the inspector. The inspector replied, a slave merchant was bringing a bunch of people with a plague. The slaves ran off, so they went after them. The general close to the commander was puzzled. "There wasn't anyone other than them," the inspector added. "Did you check them?" "We checked the soldiers, but we didn't get a chance to check the slaves." "That would be the perfect way to cross the border," said a general beside Commander Thalarian. "Don't worry. If they want to cross the border, they have to pass here." Suddenly, a soldier rushed out of the forest. He faced the commander. "Commander!" "What is it?" the commander said. "There is movement in those woods." Everyone was shocked. "The woods?" Commander Thalarian then instructed some of his generals to stay at the checkpoint and watch for the slave merchant. "We will check out the woods." "Yes, Commander." "Let's go." Yes, Commander. And off the commander rode with some of the soldiers to the forest. They started searching every corner, looking around for Blackthorn, the slave merchant, who was attempting to transport the assassin out of the city. Did you find any traces? The commander asked some of his soldiers. No, a soldier replied. Find them no matter what. Yes, Commander. Let's go. And so they went in another direction, searching all around the forest. Not knowing the slave merchant they were searching for was now walking with the slaves and his soldiers toward the checkpoint. We captured all of them. We will cross the border now. Let's go, Blackthorn, a slave merchant said when he reached the checkpoint. Wait. One of the generals the commander had appointed at the gate spoke up. He stared at the other general and guards. I'll check them myself. He pushed the merchant away and started checking the slaves. They removed the bandages from their faces, trying to find any of the assassins. Back in the forest, the commander and his soldiers were still searching. When one of the soldiers saw something. What's that? He said. Clothes, replied another soldier. They started taking all the clothes out of the hiding spot. What are they doing here? The soldier was surprised. Commander, said the soldier who saw the clothes in the first place. Commander, there are clothes here. He showed the clothes to the commander. Over here. Look, he added. The commander rushed over to examine the clothes. He said, I'm sure it's their clothes. It means they changed. They plan to cross the border in disguise, a general said. The commander flung the clothes on the ground and told the soldiers to move out to the checkpoint. At the checkpoint, the generals were still checking the slaves one by one. They couldn't find any of the assassins, so they returned to their position. When Blackthorn noticed he wasn't detected, he said, Would you like to check them all? Where could he have hidden the assassins? Were they still in the forest? Did they fly up in the sky? None of the generals could come up with an answer, so they looked at each other and shook heads. No, just go. One of them said. Okay, said Blackthorn. He then ordered his soldiers to move out. That's how the merchant and the slaves walked out of the gate. Meanwhile, the soldiers at the checkpoint were still wondering where the assassins were hiding. Some minutes later, after Blackthorn and the slaves got out of the gate, the commander and his soldiers rode on their horses as if they were sure they could catch the assassins. They finally arrived at the checkpoint. Where is the slave merchant? The commander asked. They just passed through, said one of the generals the commander appointed to the checkpoint. Were there any suspicious fellows? No, sir. The slaves all had some sort of plague. But one of the commander's generals had a different thought. He was deep in thought, as if making advanced calculations in his head. I checked each one, said the general. None of them were in disguise. What about the soldiers? Finally, the curious general spoke up. The guard said they checked them before. The general took a deep breath. You were tricked, he said. They came back as soldiers. Everyone was surprised. What? Said a soldier, while looking at the commander. Let's go after them, it's not too late. Commander Thalorian replied regretfully, it's too late. They crossed the border, they probably have horses, and we don't know where they went. Everyone was worried. They had lost the assassins. Those who had killed the prince were not punished. I wonder why we can't capture the assassins. They did such a terrible thing, a soldier said. Because, replied the curious general, revenge isn't about ending everything with blood. Then the commander added, if a criminal escapes punishment in the world, the judge who is above is not unjust in his judgments. The key is, if you've been tasked with guarding something, never act hastily or delay in making decisions. Don't be overly confident to skip a second check, as it could potentially cost the life of a prince.